We're going to resolve the combat that was organized in this last movement round. Each turn has 2 or 3 or more, usually no more than 3 rounds, because of the because of the time. The time eventually runs out, but you do the movement rounds. You pay for the movement. You do all your actions, and then now, without any timers, we will resolve combat. And let's see what we have here. We have Queipo de Llano attacking Malaga, which happened historically, except it was with some of the Italian units. So we got combat factor of 4. It's the black number. Under that we have reinforcement layer, so that is another 4. It takes up the combat factor from the regular unit that's on top. So 4, 4, 8. 2 for the artillery, 2 for this force that's here. As long as it's 1 transit point away by road, they can join the battle. So 8, 12. 8 plus 2 plus 2. So we have 8, 12. There's no aircraft that could be joining the battle any time here. So we have 12. And it's a good idea to write it down. Nationalists, Republicans, we have 12. The Republicans under Perea have 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus the combat factor of the actual commander. In this case, he has 1 there. So that's 4. It's not as bad as it looks, because now there's going to be some modifiers as well that we're going to look at. So the Nationalists pay 12, 10, 11, 12, and the Republicans pay 1, 2, 3, 4. So they paid that for their combat. And now, very important, let's look at the modifiers. Command, the morale. Morale is high, morale is low. The morale is high for the Nationalists, and it's normal for the Republicans. So because it's high, they get an extra point. Plus 1. They're not really attacking through the mountain. It looks that way, but it isn't, because the mountain peaks, which are clearly in a pink there, are here, and they do not. This road does not cross it. And even if it did, it's a road, so it goes through. The only way the mountain peaks count as a modifier, for example, is if, let's just say, the force was here attacking a force that's here, or vice versa. There's a mountain in between, and so therefore there's a demerit there. But that's not the case, so that doesn't count. There's no pincers or envelopments or anything like that. It's not an off-the-road attack. It's a on-the-road attack. So no demerits for the attacker, and there's no commander qualities there. That commander does not have any special unit on it, special marking. You know, some commanders do. For example, the communist ones here, as you can see, these ones will have an advantage if they're commanding the same type of forces. We'll see that right now. Perea is experienced, whether he's an anarchist or not. Mera was, but he's experienced with anarchist forces. He's got an A there. And all these forces are anarchists. They are all from the CNT, the trade union. So let's check this out. Perea is commanding 3 of them, and there's an extra point for each one because of that. Now, if it was any other commander, Riquelme or Vega, for example, as a matter of fact, Vega would be a negative demerit, because if a communist commander leads an anti-communist unit or an anarchist unit, they get less than a point. So you got to be very careful. But in this case, we have an anarchist commander leading the same type of unit. So whenever this matches with this, it's 1 point per unit. So we haven't even paid for that, and we're going to get 3 points. So look, the 4 becomes 4 plus 3 for the Republicans. Are there any other demerits, or I should say, are there any other modifiers? Nothing on mountain, nothing behind the river, but we do have an entrenchment. The entrenchment is right here, It was placed there before. As a matter of fact, it has been there for a long time. And that is going to give it another point. So these are all demerits. We have paid for the entrenchment earlier, but now we don't have to pay. It's just another modifier. So in all, the Nationalists have 13 against 4 plus 4, 8. So the odds are not that bad. Queipo de Llano is attacking, so we're going to spend his army there. And now we will roll the dice. So the Nationalists have 13. We'll use the 10. And of course, as you know, the 0 here counts for 10. So we have a 10 dice plus 3. This is the 3 dice. It's the only dice with the dots. And we use the fraction dice. And here we are. We're rolling for the attacker. We got, oh, very low score. Terrible. We got a 3 and 2/3. 2/3 of 3 is, of course, you don't even need to look it up, is 2. So the actual score for the Nationalists was 2. Now for the Republicans, we're going to roll an 8. And here's an interesting thing. I talk about this in the rules. You can use the 8 dice to roll the 8, or you can use 2 4s. If you use 2 4s, there's a less chance of getting a low number, but there's also potentially less chance of getting a high number. So it's more in the middle. If you use a single dice for the same score, it's a little bit more of a gamble. Sure, you can get an 8 more easily, but you can also get a 0. So the possibilities are greater. But let's chance it. 8. 6, 2/3. So 2/3 of 6 is 4. Not bad. The Republic has 4. The attacker got 2 hits. Unfortunately, that means 2 units were hit here. 1 remains. And those are gone forever. The only way they could come back on are... But now the Republic inflicted 4 hits. And we go to the order. It's because we have different types of units here. We have regular units and reinforcements, which are the same. We have militia. We have artillery. Who gets hits first? We already know that out of practice, but you go to the order of damage. If there's another tank in there, it would be the tank. If there's an enemy tank, it's not. So the first thing to be hit would be the reinforcements. 4 hits gets rid of this reinforcement completely. And where does he placed? He is eliminated. He is going to be placed in the next available house, the next available box on the calendar for the reinforcement, an empty box. All those are taken, but here is an empty box. So there it is. That reinforcement will be available again. The forces will build up in a year's time from now. Actually, 18 months. It's going to take 18 months to build that up again. It's not as bad as it seems, though, because we have a lot of other forces there to deploy later in the other turns. So that's gone. And that's about it. 4, we can put this back in there. The Army of the South. Everything else survives. The attack triangle is removed. But let's see what happens here. What does the victor do? Because regardless of the battle results, the side who won, this will dictate what happens. The side who won usually has a chance to advance if he wants to. Or there's a stalemate. That's a good chance as well. And there's even a less chance, the one side only, to retreat. So there is a possibility that he either advances, most likely, stalemate, second most likely option, or the least likely retreats, because he is the winner. So every time the winner will have to roll this dice. We're also going to put his flag. The flag, the Republic won this battle, so that goes there to indicate that. And let's look at the flags right now. There can only be 2 flags for any side. The Republic has 1 flag here. The Nationalists used to have 1 flag, and that's all, right? They had 1 flag, and because of that, the morale was up 1. But now, both flags are the same, and when that's the case, the morale goes to normal. If the Nationalists have 2 flags and the Republic have none, then it would be like this. 2 differences. But now they have the same amount of flags, so morale is normal for both. The Republican won the fight, so the initiative goes to them for the time being. And now we can roll the green dice to see what is the fate of their movements. They advance. So, even though they took a big hit here, they are able to advance. So they're going to choose to do so, which means Queipo de Llano's army has to move here or here. He can choose. He is going to choose up here because he wants to protect Seville. So all the forces move with him. All the regular forces under him and the auxiliary. This one doesn't have to move because it's in a separate... but this, the direct transit point where the attack was being taken, then that has to move. Incidentally, if you're thinking what this is here, this is a mine. It's a value of 10, and it's a zinc and pyrite mine. There's lots of them in the south of Spain. The most famous ones were the Rio Tinto mines here. But we'll talk about that later. So the Republic chooses to advance. Now, if they're advancing, their entrenchment has to be taken out. That's it. Put the entrenchment back there. They can reapply it, but they advance here. And there it is. A bit of a precarious situation. They need to reinforce as quickly as possible on the next turn. Otherwise, they're going to be completely destroyed, no doubt. Might even be encircled. So that's something that the red player needs to remember. No industry has changed hands, but if Queipo de Llano had destroyed these forces and they retreated and he took Malaga, then what would have happened was he would have placed his blue marker there over Malaga, and the industry, because Malaga is 4 industry points, the industry would have moved in favor of the Nationalists. They would have been 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. They would have had 39, and the Republic would have decreased. That didn't happen. The Republic won this fight. Doesn't happen too often because they are seriously outclassed in this entire war. But there is a chance.